Hi book friends, I'm Erin, and this is Erin Go Read. So I have more of a chatty video today, a life update, and then I'll talk about what I have been reading, what I am reading. So if you follow me on Instagram, you may have already seen that my husband Sam passed away on April 3rd. Sam was a Marine. He was hit by a roadside bomb in 2007 in Iraq. And the last nearly 13 years, we've fought together. He had a severe traumatic brain injury. He required 24-hour nursing care. He received continuing physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy, as well as music therapy. And he was hospitalized a lot. So he was very medically fragile, but he did have an excellent quality of life outside of those illnesses. And even when he was sick, because of his short-term memory loss, basically as long as I was there, as long as, he was very well taken care of. And so he really did have a really great quality of life. And then during this shelter in place time, I wasn't able to be there with him for the 3 weeks before he passed. But we were able to FaceTime with his therapist would help with that. They would set him up on his tilt table. He would be standing, which he would speak the best in a standing position. And then we would get to FaceTime while he was doing therapy. I did get to FaceTime with him the day before he passed. And the day he passed, which was on Friday, he'd had a really great day. I had a really great day myself, and he had a really great day. And then he kind of just quickly spiked a fever. After about an hour of them trying to bring down his temperature with Tylenol and ice packs, it was still going up. So they called the doctor and he said to go ahead and send him to the emergency room. So I got the call at about 5:40 in the evening from his nurse that he was being sent to the emergency room. I didn't know if they were even gonna let me in. And really they only did because of his lack of communication, because of the severity of the situation, and because they knew who we were, and then the nurses knew that they would need me. And so in the emergency room, there's some rooms that have like a sliding glass door rather than a curtain, and he was in one of those rooms. There's better like isolation precautions with the ventilation and everything in those rooms, and so I was able to sit outside of the glass there and see in and communicate with the staff. His rectal temp when they got to the ER was 106. And although his eyes were open and moving, he looked quite peaceful. He was not responsive. He was responsive to discomfort or pain. When they did the COVID nasal swab, he did kind of react to that, as really anyone would. But in the times that I was able to peek my head in and talk to him, he wasn't able to lift up his hand or give me a thumbs up, something that he would normally very easily be able to do. And so I think that his temperature was just so high that's where he was. Ultimately, he ended up passing just after 11 p.m. As they were working on him in the ER, getting ready to send him to the ICU, his blood pressure just totally started to crash, and his heart rate was elevated really high the whole time. It was in the 160s. It would come down to the 130s. I think the lowest I saw it was 128. But any sort of movement or activity in the room, and it would come back up into the 140s, 150s. And then his blood pressure was crashing. So they decided, let's move him into the ICU so they can start working on him there. And they led me to the ICU waiting room. And within just a few minutes of him being in the ICU, I heard the announcement, code blue. And I knew it was him. Yeah, I think I was really kind of in a state of shock, as you would imagine. I was able to text some family, kind of right as it was happening, letting them know when I heard the code blue update. I'm like, someone's coding, I think it's Sam. I was seeing people that I know, hospital staff running down the hallway, people who had just been working on him, minutes before I was seeing race down the hallway. So I knew that was him that they were taking care of. And then amazingly, a nurse who normally works on the second floor on the med-surg unit, who had Sam many, many times, just happened to be in the ICU for some reason, and she saw that it was Sam coding, and she came to find me in the ICU waiting room, and she came and sat with me. And then they were able to relay to the emergency room to go ahead and let my parents and my sister in. So my mom got there first, and she was there with me just really a couple minutes after I had found out that he had been pronounced dead. And basically his heart just stopped. They did try to revive him, but his heart just stopped, and it was very peaceful, and he was with great medical staff who had cared for him many times before. And that was real comfort to know that even though I wasn't physically able to be there in there with him, he wasn't with strangers. He was with people who knew him, who knew me. And I'm happy about that. So in the meantime, my mom has been with me. She came home with me that night. My sister and my dad were here for the first several days. And then my sister, who works in dialysis, had to go back to work, and her husband's able to work from home. And so we've still had the kids. Since my parents normally have them once a week and I normally have them once a week, we together have been having the kids twice a week. And so that's been a great comfort and distraction and joy. So obviously, due to the time that we are in, we aren't able to have a service for him right away. And I think that's actually for the best, because I think if we had anything already, it would have just been like a public viewing of my mourning. And I think when we get to do it a month or 2 or 3 months in the future, I will be able to celebrate him a bit more and be much more present with everyone else who is there to celebrate him. Yeah, in the meantime, just, it's almost been nice, actually, just kind of, as my world has kind of come to a screeching halt, the rest of the world has really slowed down with me, and I guess I find comfort in that a bit. And it's normal. Everybody else is huddled up at home with me, I suppose. So reading has been a great comfort in that. So I've kind of got two different things going on reading-wise. I have the BookTube Prize books, and I'm reading nonfiction for the quarterfinals. And the nonfiction is quite heavy topics. I'm just going to go over the ones that I've read so far and that I'm reading. I'm not going to go into those because I can't really talk about my feelings on those until after this round is over. So the first book that I read, and it was actually really good timing, is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. And Lori Gottlieb is a therapist. She became a therapist through a quite interesting and circuitous route. And basically something happens in her life where she seeks therapy for herself. And so we get to see her therapist's view of therapy from both the therapist and from the patient or the client. And we see her growth as a person through her own therapy, and as a therapist through her sessions with her patients. That's all I will say on that one. I listened to the audiobook of Parkland by Dave Cullen. He was the author of Columbine, and this was about the Parkland shooting in Florida. And it's really a story, the story that he's telling of the Parkland survivors, of the kids who became activists even from during the actual live as it was happening during the shooting. And again, not one that you would think would be a great one to read while you were grieving. It was actually quite hopeful and was able to take me out kind of my own mind. And now I'm about a quarter of the way through Solitary by Albert Woodfox, who is a man who was a criminal, and then he was already in prison and then the Black Panther movement has begun, and he kind of falls in with the Black Panthers and kind of becomes reformed basically within prison, and then ends up being convicted of a crime that he did not commit within the prison, and he ends up in solitary confinement for like 40 years or something like that for a crime that he did not commit. And so that's kind of right where I am right now, as he's facing that trial for the crime that he did not commit. And then my fiction choices are far, far lighter. So my friend Megan sent me a bookish care package, a book gift, and this was a book that she read as a kid, devoured it, I think, from the library, and she found a copy for me. This is The Velvet Room by Zilpha Keatley Snyder, who I realized I had read a book from several years ago when, after Sam was injured, we were in Marin County for a year, and she was local to there, and so I found her at a local bookstore, Book Passage, one of my favorite bookshops. And she wrote children's mysteries that a lot of it had to do with the settings, as far as I understand, were always centered around California and California history. This takes place in Southern California, kind of central Southern California. This little girl and her family has moved, and her father is working on this large property, and there's this mysterious house that no one lives in anymore, and part of it was like this original Spanish house, and then like a big grand Irish manor kind of was built around it, and it had to do with the history of the family that lived there. And she discovers the Velvet Room, and there's like a is she a witch, isn't she a witch type of character, just great, sweet mystery, fun, following around a little girl who always wandering off and getting into mischief. And I read Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend, book 2 in the Nevermore series, and we just continue to follow Morrigan, and this is more, she's in the Wondersmith Society now, and she's like, her class is now beginning, and the classes that she's going to take and all, and just the continuing saga of that. I don't really want to go too much into it, as it is book 2. Quite enjoyed it, and it was excellent escape for my mind and my heart. And then just yesterday, I finished my first Discworld novel, Weird Sisters by Terry Pratchett. I kind of have mixed feelings about this. I really liked the characters and the story and everything. Just the writing style was really, first of all, there's no chapters, so there would just be like chapter breaks, and then you just jump into another set of characters, another scene, and it would always just kind of take me a minute to get my bearing and figuring who we are, where we are, all that kind of things. There were definitely some elements that I was just like confused, and I would have to reread, so I don't know if it was just my mental state or the writing itself that had me a bit confused. I just didn't feel like things were always very clear cut as to what was actually happening. But I am definitely interested in reading more. Is it The Color of Magic? That's the first one. I do have that one. That's the only other one that I own. But I wanted to start with this one. Let's see, these two I know work for the Owl's Magical Readathon. This one for Shapeshifter, and this one for a book with wizards in it. So what this would be Transfiguration, and this one was History of Magic or Charms. I don't remember. No, I think Charms is white cover. Anyway, these are Owl's Magical Readathon books. Anyway. So that is what's up with me. I'm going to link in the description box a Facebook post that I did, just kind of a little bit about our story and kind of where I am and where I'm going. I was actually working on my business Facebook page, trying to optimize my business Facebook page the other day, and there's the About section, and just the way that it was set up called My Story, and I just started typing, and I just got into like this flow state, and I am pretty proud of what I ended up writing, so I will link that below. So that is what is going on in my life, and these are the books that I have read recently or am currently reading. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the love and support that I know I will get and that I have already received on Instagram. Thank you for watching. See you around the tubes.